Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. The topic of this 10-minute moan is about a rumour that Sunak may be stepping down. Okay, this might be true, it might not be true, I've got no idea, but what I can't say is for definite he will or definite he won't. Let's have a look at what's going on. GB News issued this morning a piece with the headline, "Wild Rumours Sunak to resign rapidly spread after PM cancels media interviews." What became apparent is Richie Sunak cancelled some interviews over the weekend, which when you consider we are right in the middle of an election campaign, it's quite a bizarre stance to take for a sitting Prime Minister. Now, this is obviously all started with his disappearance from the D-Day remembrance and celebrations over in France last week, and he left early to take part in a TV interview, which, when you consider most of the other politicians had just stopped campaigning for a day, it was very disingenuous, and it's not been received very well at all by politicians, some people in his own party, and the British public at large. So there's been a few things that's upsetting people. There's obviously that's upset a lot of people, but a lot of people within his own party are very upset by the timing of the election, where they felt like everyone else it was more likely to be in the autumn later on in the year, but he sprung it on the nation, surprised a lot of people and upset a lot of Tories that the election they feel has been called at a time which wasn't ideal, where they could have put it off a few months, try and gain some popularity and possibly save their seats. And a lot of Tory previous MPs have just simply stood down and just said, no running, waste of time. So when you put this all into the pot and consider how Tory party politicians and potentially members are feeling right now, Richie Sunak was probably not the most popular person to them. And I would not be surprised if there's been many calls for his resignation. Now, they have flung some well-known Tories in front of camera to dispel these rumours. But as politicians we're talking about, you can say something on a Friday and do the complete opposite on a Monday, as we've seen recently in Scotland, where the First Minister told us all he was going to come out fighting when there was calls for him to resign, and resigned at the end of that weekend. So, it's no unprecedented that these people change their mind. And the fact that he said nothing at all for probably going on 24 hours now, maybe 48, while we've got a general election going on, is very, very peculiar. So, I'm not saying, and people saying, well, that can't really happen because what's he resigning from? Well, he actually still holds two posts. He is the current leader of the Tory party, and surprising to many, he's still the Prime Minister, because although Parliament has been dissolved after he called the election, the Cabinet are still a thing. The Cabinet still function. So he is still the Prime Minister. It's not a role that disappears like an MP. Normally MPs stop being MPs about 4 or 5 days after an election's called, and that happened like a week ago. But the Cabinet still has to be the Cabinet, and the Prime Minister still has to be the Prime Minister. And over and above all that, regardless of what happens at the election, the public don't decide who is the Tory party leader. That's the Tory party that do that, and he is still the Tory party leader as we speak. So could it happen? Very, very possible. I wouldn't discount it. A lot of people are saying it's impossible, it just simply wouldn't happen. Well, I think what's happening to him, the amount of people deserting the Tory party, the polls are horrific, the public opinion on him is very low, and this D-Day thing is just icing in the cake for a lot of people. So it's not impossible, and I would suggest it's not improbable. If it did happen, I wouldn't be surprised, and if it were to happen, there's processes he has to go through, and one of the first things he does is goes and speaks to the King to tell him what he's doing. So that can't happen over the weekend. So what's going to happen tomorrow? I don't know, but it certainly is possible that Sunak could eventually have either A, read the room, or B, listened to people within his party, and they've just decided enough's enough. There's a few short weeks left of this election, and with popularity for Reform Party and Nigel Farage on the increase, that's obviously, I would suggest, the vast majority of anybody going to vote for them is coming from traditional Tory voters. There might be the odd person that might have voted Labour in the past go to the Reform, but I think it's fair to suggest that the vast majority would come from them. So if this continues, and we've got another couple of weeks still left of the election, it could just get worse and worse for the Tories. So actually getting rid of him standing down as party leader and the Prime Minister, won't, I think, keep them in power, but it could certainly help stem the flow, which looks as if they're going to lose lots and lots of seats. So it's probable, and it's probable it's went on in the back, the people in the party having a wee word in his ear, or Rishi Sunak actually just doing what politicians are not very good at, to be honest with you. He might just be able to read the room in this instance and see that even by him being the Tory leader, it will cost not him, just personally him's votes, it will cost the whole party votes. And although it'd be a massive thing, and a lot of people just cannot see it happening, I wouldn't discount it just yet. And I think tomorrow will be very interesting, because if he was to go 48 hours, going on to 72 hours, without talking to the press, that's just weird. There's something afoot. The only other possible, I suppose, is he's just coming out of the limelight for a wee bit, hoping that there's something about, Labour Party might come out that's bad news, or some good news for Tories, and, step back up after a couple of days. But for any party leader, and particularly one who is current Prime Minister, to just go into radio silence, it's just very, very, very peculiar. And I can't really see that being an option, that he's just ducking for cover to try and see calmer waters in a few days and then reappear and pretend nobody's... I mean, everybody, to be honest with you, everybody that put a microphone in front of him was going to ask him about D-Day. So it could be he felt, I'll just duck under cover for a few days, let this calm down, and then pop back up. But I don't think that would work. I just cannot believe that a Prime Minister of the United Kingdom actually done what he done. It's beggars belief. And it's probably just a good indicator as to how out of touch these people are with the man in the street and the electorate, and they just can't read the room. They just do it time and time again. But in such a big occasion, even forgetting there's a general election on, forget all that. To be at a memorial and a celebration and all these things these things that happened in D-Day they were all of that. To actually stand up, walk out and disappear, when there was men between 96-year-old and 104-year-old there who managed to go to pay their respects, to celebrate and do whatever they were getting out of that event, for anybody to stand up and just walk out of that, it's completely bonkers. To actually consider that acceptable is frightening. But when you put on top of it the elections going on, and he's the Prime Minister, and all the things that you need to put on top of that, just beggars belief. But it's a politician. It's what politicians do. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. If you've not already done so, please subscribe to the channel. But most importantly of all, unless you're Rishi Sunak or any of these nutcase politicians that think they're better and above and beyond normal people, everybody else, have a great day. Cheerio, bye now.